cue the epic music because today's the day before launch of a brand new league, and this one packs quite the punch. Let's try to imagine what these Fists of Fury can do with all this new tech right around the corner. Introducing several build concepts for the new Hollow Palm technique gameplay. I am the thunder personified. I am the wind personified. Double the palms, triple the freeze. Break your stance in a storm of twisters. The ultimate 2-button flicker god. The elemental wind shredder. Reimagining the 7-sided exploding palm monk from D3. Perfect in both form and function. All these and more await you in Rayclast. And with an unprecedented number of core changes coming to the game, the build creation process is now more exciting than ever before. Still, every character's journey starts with humble beginnings. Today, I'll be introducing the initial leveling and build to kick things off. Here is the official League Start build guide video for one Hollow Palm Twister Deadeye in patch 0.3, the Third Edict. What's going on, guys? New here. Thanks for tuning in to the channel. What a wild ride it's been the last couple days with all the buffs and nerfs. The GGG just keeps throwing out last seconds, making everybody rethink what they're going to run. Are they even going to run the same build, same ascendancy, just change things up? Everybody's assuming the power threshold is going to be quite a bit higher here in 0.3. I think there's a good reason for that with the lineage support gems, the support gems being able to use more than one weapon swap. I mean, that's a big thing for me. I think people are undercounting how strong that's going to be, but as you can see, I've made a build around that quite a bit. Hollow Palm is something that's very exciting for me. Twisters, still very exciting. I played Twisters at 0.2 with the Amazon archetype, and then the Monk archetype, Quarterstaffs, played that in 0.1. What a brilliant idea. Let's just combine them together. Remove the shackles for the weapon swap. Let's take two of the most radical, fast archetypes in the game, got crazy speed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Everybody starts somewhere, and we're going to start today with the Leveling League Start Guide. Now, this will be linked in the description below, of course, and it's a living document. So even though my words here are immortalized and they may become wrong over time, especially in a matter of a few hours, because the launch still hasn't happened yet, you can see there are 4 sets here. We got late in-game crit ES hybrid, early in-game ES hybrid before crit, we have late campaign live before ES, and then we have early campaign before Hollow Palm. And so that's kind of how they're separated out. So it's not exactly a step-by-step thing here, but that's why this video exists. So I'm kind of going to go over it in narrated form just for you. Now, before we get started with the nuts and bolts of this build, I feel morally obligated to just recognize that, yes, a lot has happened that has affected this build in the last few days. I just came out with a video talking about Deadeye versus Invoker. My decision to run the Ascendancy was obviously pretty grounded, but it came right before a whole bunch of nerfs to Deadeye. Just so you guys know, I'm still committing to it. I don't want to get lost in the weeds about why that is, but let's just kind of recognize that the most powerful notable on Deadeye, well, not counting Tailwind, for Twister side of things, is Thrilling Chase notable. It's one I really want to take advantage of. And yeah, that hurts a lot. It did make me think twice about this 50% nerf to that notable. I still think it's, you know, a good point, of course. And then on the flip side, GGG taketh away, GGG giveth. For some reason, we got a 12% buff across the board for Twister. Nobody asked for that. I don't think anybody's sitting here that says Twister is too weak. I'm not sure why, but okay. Of course, I'll take it. Why not? Now that buff to Twister is actually pretty huge, especially in the beginning, because as early as the Devour request in Act 1, you're rocking Twisters. That's your primary way to do damage. I mean, the whole Hollow Palm thing, all that stuff doesn't come in until later. You can try to rush it. I don't think it's a good idea, and I'm not going to recommend it. It's going to come later on towards the end of the campaign, but this is what it looks like to start with. I mean, look, this is level appropriate SSF. Do those Twisters look weak to you? I don't think they are. But anyway, you just Send them into the wall, let them bounce back. I made a whole walkthrough video, which will be linked in the description of this video. It basically held your guys' hand on the process of leveling with Twister Act 1. Now let's take a look way beyond Act 1. This is Campaign Cruel Act 3. Level appropriate, SSF again. I tried to kind of replicate what the build would look and feel like. Of course, it doesn't do it any justice whatsoever. I'm dealing with the full brunt of the weapon swap delay. Hollow Palm doesn't exist. I got a bad quarterstaff on. It's way slower, more clunky than it will be actually in 0.3, but at least I knew I would be recording some footage to show you guys, to give you some sense of how it would play. You can see something of a rotation going on. You see Ice Strike builds combos for the bell. Twisters hit the bell. I get the elemental twisters through Frozen Locust. I get Barrage. I get Whirling Slash to build up the twisters. And it's not necessary to use all those buttons all the time, but they are available at your disposal. That does make some sense why each and every one of them is there. Now I think it's time we really sink our teeth into the build. We're going to spend most of our time here on this page. It features the passive tree, which again has all the different sections there. These sections line up with the skill gems and the gear as well. 4 different sections represent 4 different progression points. Early campaign life represents like the first half of the campaign basically, and we got all the skill gems here, and you'll see there is an early campaign cut order for the skill gems, the support gems, the spirit gems that you would use. And you know, it's not the end of the world if you misorder things here, but it is kind of important to get this right. It doesn't matter so much later on in the back half of the campaign and stuff, so there's no section for that really. There is a bit of a rotation here for Twister. Once you get Barrage at the end of Act 1, you want to make sure you have at least a full Whirling Slash setup. I mean, that's visually obvious when you have 3 or more. And then Frozen Locust is a quarterstaff skill, so you'll need a quarterstaff in the beginning. Later on, Hollow Palm will do you justice here. And this mandates freeze. A little crystal out there. It usually freezes enemies, although there's some speculation that it might not because it's getting nerfed to some extent. The core functionality of Frozen Locust is actually to give you chilled ground. It seems to be the easiest way in the early campaign to get chilled ground, and so it backflips you real quick, gets you in a nice position to fire towards enemies that are probably frozen, maybe giving you the ice bite buff as well, and then you cast Twister, and that's kind of the core rotation. Later on, you'll get Hollow Palm, and at that point, you can start experimenting with some different things. I've chosen Ice Strike because it's just the most comfortable thing for players. It's not necessarily what I'm going to use, but the build is obviously a little bit complex. I ranked it at 5 here. I always do highly complicated builds, so I'm trying to appease the masses where I can, if possible. I think Ice Strike will be a nice skill. I may use one of the Palm skills that give a lot more utility, though, if they feel good with Hollow Palm. I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, you just spam it until you get the bell, and it does a good job freezing enemies, hitting and doing damage, and you get the bell, and again, the Twister's going to it and all that stuff. So here the skill gems are up above. We'll start with Whirling Slash. That is your first skill gem. You need to get a spear first. So as a Deadeye, you don't start with a spear, so you may level as Lightning Arrow until you can buy a spear or find one on the ground. At which point, you'll be able to get Martial Tempo. More than once now, by the way. Except it's not called Martial Tempo, it's called something else, and I think it's nerfed a bit. But whatever the support gem is for faster attacking. Rage will come in later, but Rage is really nice because it just gives you a bit of rage on hit, and we don't really care about the damage of Whirling Slash so much, so it's good extra utility for more damage. Later on, Font of Rage is way better, but it's a tier 3 support gem, can't get it to start with. Twister will begin with Retreat for some straightforward damage. This conditional is always met with this build, so that's nice. Persistence is really, really good. Low-key, skill effect duration is one of the best stats in the game for Twister, and it's probably even better for this build because you get added value out of for the bell and for buffs, different buffs that you might get with the monk as well. Frozen Locust will come very early in the campaign, and it's a great place to get the Ice Bite buff. It's so reliable. Again, might be a little less reliable. Now, if it's doing less damage, not freezing enemies, my anticipation is it'll probably do a decent enough job freezing enemies. So yeah, especially with glaciation will probably help. Barrage is here too. Okay, so Barrage comes at the end. I think it's level 14. Pre-med is there in Arcane Tempo. You don't have much skill speed before Tailwind, and it feels a little bit bad, hard casting anything. Barrage is definitely a little stop to it. Arcane Tempo helps with that. Tailwind helps with that. Dance with Destruction Keystone helps with that as well. So that'll feel a lot better as time goes on. Herald of Ice comes with the King of the Mist quest, and it's not super important to get these. You wouldn't necessarily even get value out of Innervate. We don't have any direct way to shock here. The assumption is that you might have Flat Lightning on your gear. Combat Frenzy is here with Profusion, and so it got nerfed recently. Longer cooldown, not the end of the world, still going to work. And then Wind Dancer, probably later on towards the end of the campaign as you get your last 100 full spirit. Now, late campaign, we start adding some different things. I'm not going to go into detail about these. You can ask if you want in the comment section down below. I want to keep the video fairly short, but, you know, just getting you started. These support gems are set up, you know, most important to least important. And so the assumption is that you're just kind of adding some at the end. For example, the final row features a lot of stuff with crit, right? And so the fourth row at the early end game actually starts to feature rank 3 support gems. So it should make sense to you. Basically, if you just follow along here and you prioritize Twister the most, that's where you want your first jeweler to go. Yeah, can't do much wrong there. Let's go right over to the gear. All right, so this is pretty simple. I think early on, you're just going to get whatever you can get, honestly. It's the early campaign, and you know, you're not necessarily going to have this base, but just so you know, the Flying Spear base is the best. Projectile speed is a very powerful stat for Twister. It doesn't matter what damage type you're doing. It is nice to get attack speed on your weapon, if possible. And let's check out weapon slot number 2. Oh yeah, it's nothing, because Hollow Palm doesn't need anything. You're not going to use anything anyway at that early. Well, actually, you would have a staff. I suppose I should populate a little staff there. Yeah, I think I will do that. All right, and so, yeah, any damage, any attack speed, just whatever your best spirits. Check the vendors. Check them regularly. I mean, body armor, helmet, everything else is just pretty straightforward. I got them 3 modded. You know, they're going to be fairly high roll for the time. Are you going to have 25% movement speed boots? No, probably not. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever you can get. These are some of the most important stats. Try to cap your res. You know, try to get some evasion if you can. Armor is actually a pretty good stat super early on. Life regen is good early on. Get your attributes covered. Attribute requirements have been lessened now in the game. And yeah, the charms are a little bit important here. I like the stun charm, freeze charm, and the slow charm in that order if possible. I mean, they're not super important, but, you know, you get the idea. Late campaign, I don't think there's any changes. I actually think there's 0 changes in here, basically. It's like just kind of homogenized early campaign, late campaign. Hey, look, no leveling uniques. However, early in game, we start to see some changes, okay? Because the ES is going to start coming into play. We're going to do a pretty big swap in the passive tree, which we'll see in a moment. And you're going to see these boots here. Wake of Destruction will remove the need to get Frozen Locust. And as you saw, this build has quite a few skills that you press. So it's going to be kind of a big deal to remove a button you need it in your rotation. It's going to make Twisters dummy proof. Some people have come to me thinking that this whirling slash 4-second gone elemental thing is like some big nerf. It's not really affecting this build at all. And then it's just made completely redundant if you constantly have elemental ground under you with Wake of Destruction. For the vast majority of you, I recommend Wake of Destruction into the deep end game, maybe to the very end. I thought about doing it for myself, and then, you know, coming out with some other ways to get elemental ground, but it gets tricky, okay? This makes it dummy proof. And again, we're making a build guide for the masses, so we want to keep it as simple and easy to understand as possible. Wake of Destruction are very good. Try to get them as early as you can. Live search it if you want. They're going to be a little expensive in the beginning, but I don't see that many people needing them for their, you know, big time for their functionality. They're just, you know, good boots because they they automatically shock things, give flat lightning, and, you know, in the very beginning of the campaign, they're pretty strong. Late end game, we see a couple more changes, okay? And the gear still looks, you know, about the same. We get plus to melee skills. It's going to be good for Hollow Palm, really good. And you're not going to have an offhand at all, so it's going to be hard to get that stat, to be fair. Still using the boots. Nothing else has really changed here. Just trying to get flat where you can on the rings, and that's because I'm using Tangle Tongue. So the switch to crit, I think it's going to be the smartest to use Tangle Tongue. Yes, even a nerfed Tangle Tongue. You see, when you crit, all of them crit or none of them do. So you really want to get that lucky roll in there. You have as much chance to crit as you can. If you're going to commit to it, go all the way with it. And when your gear kind of sucks in the beginning, you're not going to have a good spear. Just use Tangle Tongue. This is a hybridized build, so you can move a lot with the monk side tech of the Hollow Palm and everything as well. You're not necessarily needing the super fast attack speed for Whirling Slash to move around everywhere. So I think, especially for the Deadeye, with this setup, hybridized build, Tangle Tongue's going to be very good early on. Later, maybe with a super endgame spear, perhaps, go with that. Essentia Sanguis is a massive outlier right now for a way to recover energy shield. Now the Invoker has a real nice ascendancy point that may be a workaround for this, for you to just, you know, channel energy shield overflow. But for the Deadeye and anyone else, if you're going to go ES, you got to do this. If you're doing Hollow Palm, you're probably going to have ES, right? Because you're going to get some flat crit there. And so there's a little bit of a weakness here on the build in that it's using 2 uniques in the slot that are going to nerf Hollow Palm, but we are focusing very hard on a huge evasion chest and a huge energy shield helmet, so it's pretty common there. And those 2 slots are the ones that matter the most anyway. And so yeah, you get your energy shield leech, you get your crit out of the way, you get the elemental twisters in the ground in the end. It's going to feel pretty good with this. All right, back we go to the passive tree. This is the early campaign. Now, again, not doing a 1-by-1 point allocation, so this is where me telling you, hopefully, you know, you have to rewind this part of the video to see. In the start, you'll begin like this. This never changes, okay? You're getting a lot of projectile damage. Amazing for Twister. Attack speed is good. Projectile speed is huge. Those stats are very important. Damage when enemies affected by elemental ailments. We got Frozen Locust going out. They're always going to be chilled. Okay, so those are fine. Quick beeline up to this line here. Increased damage with hits against blinded enemies. Very, very good. That's global damage against blinded enemies. Both Whirling Slash and Twister blind on hit 100% of the time. So, I mean, that's just a gimme right there. Early on in Act 1, you get your first weapon swap points. There's a toggle on the right-hand side in game to do that. You don't necessarily have to do that right here, but it's not going to affect you at all for Hollow Palm, so might as well prep yourself for this. A couple great points here for Twister as well. Precision Salvo is good. Again, projectile speed, attack speed. If that projectile speed roll wasn't there, I wouldn't do this, but because it's there, I think it's worth taking. You may need intelligence, you may need strength. You can figure that out and respec as you go. Depends on what your gear looks like. Generally speaking, if you're Dex class, you probably specking the first few points in int and or strength. Maiming Strike, I mean, that's a given. Everybody takes this. It's really good. Gets movement speed. Maim does some good stuff for you. It's good damage wheel. All right, and then you get Dance with Death. I said Dance with Destruction first. I guess I've been misspeaking when I call this keystone. It's called Dance with Death. 25% more skill speed while your offhand is empty. So I made a video on this too. 2 weapon archetypes, 1 weapon. It covers the bases. So Hollow Palm uses 0 weapons, and Dance with Death uses 1 weapon. And so that's pretty rad. Get more skill speed on both ends. And so, especially early on, when you're not going to have a good shield anyway, you might as well do this. Now, way later on, we might use an insane shield. Might do accuracy stacking with that shield. I'm not sure. Probably not. But definitely early on. This is so good with the Deadeye. I mean, one of my favorite things is the power spike that comes. They come in almost at the same time, too. Getting Dance with Death and Tailwind is like, wow. Okay, that's so much skill speed all at once. Oh, yeah, not to mention the acceleration wheel. Yeah, and then not to mention all this stuff. So it's just so much speed right here. It's crazy how much speed is going on here. Accuracy stacking may or may not be worth it at this point. I think it gave me like 8% attack speed at the time when I got it. As this up. Yeah, so you could take this point or this point, but yeah, you're not going crit, so don't care about the crit stuff, especially with Twister. It's not worth it. Not worth messing with until you commit. Now, here's some points you may or may not want to take. I recommend these, especially for earlier beginner players. These are really, really good. Twister, freezing Twisters, they freeze and they stun like crazy. Hollow Palm, Ice Strike, freezes and stuns like crazy. So when you are adding into that, when you're just diving straight into it, I mean, it's just so much stun and freeze. It's amazing. Highly recommend to do this, or, you know, right after this time. Moving on to late campaign, this is where Hollow Palm is unlocked. It will be right here. We almost surely know the position of it. It's going to be right here. And so you notice I'm not beelining for it. Now, if you really, really want to, you can, you know, level with Twister and then say, you know what? Twisters, they're not for me. I don't really want to do them. I want to do Hollow Palm. I want to try it now. Well, I don't recommend it, but you can if you want. And hey, that's kind of the nice side effect of running 2 builds in one, is you can kind of commit to one or lean very heavily on one over the other. I know for a fact Twisters is going to be good, and so that's why I'm recommending it over Hollow Palm in terms of rushing there. But yeah, we'll go up the backside with that, because over here we keep moving up and we'll take Coming Calamity, which I actually believe it's changed. This wheel's been changed a little bit, but I don't know what's going on exactly. Anyway, we run Herald of Ice with Frozen Locust Chilled Twisters. Once you get Wake of Destruction, you switch to Herald of Thunder. So either way, this would be good. +2 max Frenzy. big. Skipping the crit, not doing it. And then, actually, you don't really need to do this until you reach Hollow Palm. And then, yeah, we're just kind of beelining for Hollow Palm. This is also pretty good. Kind of a good place for 3 points. You might use the Hollow Palm setup points differently. I put a few here, just more or less defensive more than anything. But check this out. Here's one thing that I loved about the fact they put the Hollow Palm keystone here. I loved it so much because I never take Kite Runner. This is one of the best notables in the game for Twister by itself. Prog speed with damage. A big prog speed right here. Absolutely love it. It's huge. So get some major bang for a buck pathing all the way up here to Twister. I would never path up here normally because it's too much distance. But if we got to go there for Hollow Palm, then totally worth it. Beyond this, you can take a few more points before transition. This wheel here is pretty solid too. This is the Daze or Stupefy wheel might be really strong. We still have the first approach wheel. You got some evasion here. I'm just mentioning this because there's a hard swap coming. Yeah, maybe even stand and deliver before crit, but going into ES, we're going to start moving along up here, and we're going to remove a lot of this pathing. So here it is, early in-game hybrid. You can see still no changes down here, no changes really here, but the connection here has been lost. I guess it's not that crazy of a big deal. All right, you get another max frenzy charge. The only other one is over here, which isn't that far, by the way, but you know it's there. And then presumably at this point, as you're getting into maps, you're gonna have a ES helmet. You're gonna want to focus on trying to get ES helmet. So yeah, you go in ES, you get the percent increase evasion ES, and those are a little hard to come by. But the reason we go up this way is because this is how we get ES. Got a big wheel here. We got the wheel here. Initially, you're not going to have the gloves. Now, once you get the gloves, you don't need Mystic Stance anymore. I mean, maybe path through Essence of the Mountain or backwards this way or something. But before then, it's kind of an awkward transition, I'm not going to lie, because ES is getting harder and harder to recover. And so we got one of the few recovery ES nodes here. And your hybridized life in ES, so maybe this will work out well. That's my intention behind this. A few extra points, more ES. Skill speed for the Hollow Palm Monk because you got extra points there. All right, we path down backwards here, and yeah, you're presumably taking a point here. Let's take a look at the Jewel. So the Jewel can be, there are many different things you can do, but as far as being valuable for both ends, Energy Shield and Skill Effectuation. Highly recommend Skill Effectuation if you can get that on your Jewel initially. I have it on both here. Moving on to the late in-game crit setup, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here. I know this is a League Start guide, so probably most of the League Start guides you're watching don't have a setup this in-depth here, but I like focusing on... the way I make a build is I reverse engineer from the deep in-game. I try to see as far as I can in the deep in-game and reverse engineer it, and so that's why we have this here. And so a great crit wheel... Crit here going back this way. This is very typical looking, Deadeye into Monk tree setup. And that's kind of important to take note because, just real quick here, if you want to play Invoker, you know what to do. You connect these 4 points and you remove these 4. You probably remove these 2 as well. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. You might go, yeah, this is projectile speed. Yeah, I'd probably just remove these 4 and, these 4 or whatever. That's it. That's it, guys. That's for the in-game stuff. Now, early on, you would just, do typical Monk stuff and then probably path over here down this way and get Twister here. Monk League Start is much harder in general. And with Twister, it's worse because you don't get prog damage and stuff, but it's still doable. Still doable. I would path through skill speed. Yeah, so back to crit. Got the crit wheel here. You now fully fleshed out the crit down here and down here. Got this wheel as well. I think the only one that's convenient that I didn't take was this one. But this represents, what, a level 93 character? So, I mean, that's pretty late, right? And then the skill gems, or the jewels, I just left them there. I didn't really change them, except for this one, okay? This is obviously going to be a pretty good place for one of these. Increased crit damage bonus, large wheel, even small wheels still get a lot of value. And a huge value of this for the Hollow Palm setup. Yeah, wanting to really bank on that evasion here on the body armor and the ES here. And so Hollow Palm will not look at the evasion and the ES roll after all this is factored in, but I mean, since you're already diving so hard into evasion on the body armor and ES on the helmet, these are close by. Pretty good idea. You also have this up here, Spectral Reward, which might be worth taking. It's a little far. I decided not to do it. Notice even here at the crit point, there's no penetration or anything. It's because I forgot to mention. I'm glad I remembered that. Okay, so we need to go back a second here real quick and necro my skill section here because I put blasphemy in here. There's no cast on crit link. Again, trying to keep it a little more dummy proof. This is a really nice setup. I used to use a Call of the Brotherhood setup with Serpent's Egg, Amulet, 2 great items. I don't think Call of the Brotherhood's gonna be that useful anymore because Hypothermia was really good with that setup because I hybridized, lightning and cold damage, and I got cold exposure. But now Blasphemy is looking better indirectly because Elemental Weakness is way stronger than it was for any sort of build that's just trying to get whatever flat elemental damage it can anywhere. And so Blasphemy is looking like a pretty good setup. I don't know yet the advantages of Cast on Crit. We lost the ability to put marks in Cast on Crit, I think. And so the usage of it is much smaller. We might use Cast on Crit to put Elemental Grounds on. There's something with Ice Nova and Cold Infusions and things that there's just too many unknowns right now, so I can't commit to that. So the most simple way to flesh this out here with the Spirit and to work in some otherwise elemental penetration is to actually just hard lower resistances instead with Blasphemy, and then cold exposure is here somewhere as well. Yeah, on Whirling Slash. For the ascendancy points, Deadeye will obviously start Tailwind. That was never a question that you were going to start that. I'm already talking about it right from the get-go. It's one of the huge reasons to go Deadeye. A lot of people emphasize movement speed on here. In this game, with this build and the way it's set up, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. Skill speed is more important than movement speed in this game, in the entire game. There are ways to move faster with skill speed than movement speed, and just stick around for the end of the video if you want to see a verification of that. Late end game, you will add in Avidity, which has been nerfed. Okay, it's not this anymore, but it'll still give you a lot more frenzy charges for Twister. It will still be nice. You can experiment with called shots just to see if it's good first. Might just add first couple points in there just to see. But yeah, I'm going to go Avidity. And yes, I'm going to go for Thrilling Chase, which was also, nerfed as mentioned in the earlier section of the video. But these 2 points, I'm telling you, these 2 points are still going to be really big for Twister, even with their post-nerf state. And then later on, of course, called shots. So you can change the order of these things if you want. You definitely want to get Tailwind first, though. 100%. Eagle Eyes keeps getting nerfed a little bit, but it could potentially be a great way to move out of Tangle Tongue as a spear to help with that. I don't know. If you lean very heavily on Hollow Palm and you don't really care that much about the Twister stuff, you're going to go Windward and Eagle Eyes instead of these two. Just so you know. Alright, so I can see this coming from a mile away. Hey Snoo, what about Monk? I want to do Hollow Palm on Invoker. Hell, I might even do Hollow Palm Twister on Invoker. Really liked your idea, but I want to do Invoker. Okay. So after, not trashing, but talking down the Invoker a bit, I did a pros and cons video on it. Of course, I've given it a lot of thought. Your first one's going to be Eye in the Thunder. You'll never need to get Wake of Destruction boots, which means for Hollow Palm, you'll be stronger in that sense. You'll have true evasion ES boots. And so that will be nice. But if you're still focusing on Twister, it's also nice because you're going to have your elemental Twisters, right? And they will be doing real damage with Herald of Thunder. Shocking, everything. After that, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I would honestly probably do I Am the Blizzard just to get even more reliable elemental grounds and just play around back and forth. You could do Avatar if you want. Switching to ES, it probably either lead me through Grace or Faith as a choice, and it might pull my second Ascendancy to do both of these at the same time as like a 1, 2, 3. Protect Me from Harm is good, but I remember last time I played Invoker, I decided not to do it. And so yeah, I think it's basically I Am the Thunder, followed by I Am the Blizzard, followed by Lead Me Through Grace, and then Sunder My Enemies, and a possible respec out of I Am the Blizzard into Faith is a choice. If you want to play around with that, don't use the gloves either. So it's true, the Invoker has an opportunity to wear real pieces of armor on the gloves and the boots, as opposed to the build I'm doing with the Deadeye. So that is advantageous for the Hollow Palm side. Essentially, it boils down to this. The Deadeye is more advantageous if you're putting more stock in Twister. The Invoker is more advantageous if you're putting more stock in Hollow Palm. Alright guys, well that about wraps it up. So there you have it. That's the passives, the skill tree, the gear for what it's worth. Going Deadeye, you can do Invoker if you want. If you want to focus more on Twisters, Deadeye's probably better. If you want to focus more on Hollow Palm, Invoker's probably better. Chayula Monk could be interesting too. I simply didn't look into some of these other ascendancies enough to know for sure, but I'm telling you what, I'm very excited to play both of my previous archetypes that I fell in love with at the same time. And we'll see how it pans out. I don't know what the future holds in store. I don't know what this build's going to look like. It's probably not going to look exactly like this in the late end game, but this is kind of just a blueprint for you guys. And hopefully this serves you well. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section down below. You can watch me live, actually on the day of release, both on Twitch and on YouTube now, so that's exciting. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys there. But I'm not going to leave you just yet. I'm going to leave you with one lovely morsel of what to expect, you know, to crystallize it in your head just how crazy this build could be by giving you a montage of both the monk archetype and the Amazon archetype in their full glory at the very end of their progression points. Here you go. Thank you for watching. It's been my honor to bring this build guide to you. Hope you guys have a great league start, and we'll see you next time.